Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NDM podcast, where we bring together notorious disruptive minds who represent the best business leaders within their respective industries. These guests will tell you about professional and personal insights and the latest industry trends. My name is Nicholas Falcone. I'll be one of your hosts today, and I'm the CEO of NDM Hospitality and Rental Resorts. At NDM Hospitality, we provide management services in the spaces of long-term rental homes, apartments, retail, entertainment, and food and beverage. And our fastest growing business, Rental Resorts, is providing branding, management, and consulting services on how to develop and bring to life residential resorts all around the world. I'm joined here by my co-host, my partner, and my brother, also the COO of our companies, Matthew Falcone. And we're excited to kick this off and have a great show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I want to start by introducing our panel for today. We are joined by Michael Freiberghaus, the CFO of Site Impact, Alfonso Casa, the COO of Falcone Group, and obviously my co-host, Matt Falcone. And I'm just super proud to say that I'm joined by some really amazing people here. All of these guys are 40 under 40 winners, and just super pumped up for the conversation today, guys. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
So first question, just to jump right in, this is a special award. It's something that, obviously you guys have worked really hard to achieve. What was that initial reaction? Or was there any, specific moment that you're like reflecting on when you heard that you guys won the award? I'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah, I think, there was a couple of moments with regards to the award. Obviously when I got the notification via email from the South Florida Business Journal that I had received the award, it was, it kind of a culmination of all the efforts that you've put into your career to get to that point, right? Kind of validation to all the hard work that you put in, right? And then obviously the ceremony itself, right? And getting there and just kind of experiencing the overarching event and how grandiose it really is and how prestigious the award truly is, right? It was something that I was, very proud of to receive that recognition. To have gotten that nomination was flattering in itself, but ultimately to get it and then receive the award in front of a jam-packed room. Matt, you were there to, support me in that day. It was just, like I said, a validation and something I'm, very proud of.
That's awesome, man. Who was the first person you called?
First person I called was obviously Jackie, my wife. She's been my support through my career, right? She and I met in my first role coming out of college back at KPMG. So she met me when I was a staff accountant and, has supported me all the way through, the ranks, right?
That's awesome.
I don't believe I would be where I'm at in my career if it wasn't for her support. So she was my first phone call. And then, of course, my mom after that. Yep. Same kind of, nature as to why, right? I wouldn't be where I'm at without my mother. And you obviously know my mom well, right? So
it's the best.
Those were my phone calls and it was, super proud of the award.
Yeah, no, I mean, being your roommate in college and whatnot, I know that, your mom played a huge impact in who you are and, who you became. So that's awesome. And we love you, Jackie and Mrs. Freiberghaus. Hello. What about you, Alfonso? What was that reaction when you got that note?
Yeah, a lot of the similar sentiments that Mike shared, just true excitement, very humbling and honored to be a part of the group. And I think it's a testament to a lot of the things that working towards professionally, personally, and having that ability to reflect on those things as a result of the award and all of the people and support systems that have allowed me to be in the position that I'm in today, family, friends, and then the team at Falcone Group. So it really is a village that it takes to be able to be honored in this type of capacity, and being able to share with all those people is what makes it really special.
That's awesome. And you guys haven't gone to the event yet, you and Matt, right? So more to come on that. Matt, what was your reaction? It
was actually kind of funny because when I first found out, obviously I called my wife right away, Ashley, also called our mom. And then, I saw that Alfonso was right in the office right next door with Dad. So I go by, just to tell Dad that, I won the award, and he's like, oh, wait, he's like, Alfonso won as well. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. So it's a really cool honor being able to, accept this award alongside of Alfonso. And House was the one that nominated me. Obviously he believed in, just all the work that we've done to this point, to be able to, really, to get to where we're at and, deserve, be deserving of this award. So I appreciate the nomination. Of course. When I first found out, it was, just really cool because as we were growing up, our father, he's always, been very successful in business. He's always won, multiple awards, and, we've always been, going to these, award ceremonies and everything our whole life, right? So, always growing up, we would always say to us, or I would always say to myself, like, I'm excited to be able to one day, be able to look back and, hopefully be winning some of these awards, someday myself. So, to have this as, really the first major award, that I've won personally in my career, it's a huge testament to, just the overall hard work, that we put in together, as a company. And it's just super exciting, to continue seeing the growth and, and everything that we're going to have in the future. And hopefully we win, lots of other awards in the future as well, whether it's personally or as a company, whatever it is. So it was super exciting to find out that we won.
Yeah, knowing you guys, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more awards coming in this direction. So I'm excited to see that.
What about you? I know, our audience, you might not know, but Nick also won the award up in Orlando 2 years ago. So what were your thoughts when you first won?
So I'll take a little bit of a different angle. I'm very competitive, as you guys probably know. And I had applied or whatever, been nominated, let's call it, a couple years prior to that. I didn't actually win it until I was 36. And so my reaction was, it's about damn time. Because I was working really hard to get that, and I was seeing peers and different people that I work with and, work alongside, or, people that, service our business or when I'm winning the award. And I think there was a lot of competitive spirit and saying, the award, I think is something that, again, it validates or whatnot, but it was just that competitiveness of saying, I want to win. I want to, take the career to the next level and, be deserving of something like this. So to get that validation was beautiful. And, it satisfied the competitive spirit for a few days maybe. And then got right back to it.
It was pretty funny actually, because, I found out that he won after he actually, after the ceremony actually happened. I was like, "You won the 40 under 40. What the hell happened? You're gonna tell us?"
I have to be honest on that one too. That was pretty crazy. So the day of the ceremony, I was working, and the ceremony was in downtown Orlando, and it was somewhat like in the middle of the day. And for anyone that knows the traffic in Orlando, a little crazy. And plus, I was a little bit late, just from working. So I literally got there late. I walk in, they actually had just announced me and like moved to the next person because I wasn't there. So I actually missed the best part of the ceremony. I'll have to win it again, maybe, to experience it. But yeah, no, so that was my experience.
You have to win 50 under 50.
Yeah, I didn't get to do the fun dance and walk up to the music and all that. So yeah, I missed out a little bit, but it was still a beautiful ceremony and, something that was just really special.
That's awesome. That's great.
So with that being said, Mike, being that you've won it before, tell the guys, like, what did you experience thereafter? Was there any benefits from winning the award? Was there that kind of immediate, anything that kind of came up or connections? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think, from my vantage point, it's kind of a stamp, right, or a pedigree, right, in terms of a publication like the South Florida Business Journal that's really well respected in South Florida, Orlando, right, the Business Journal. It's opened up opportunities in terms of a networking perspective.
Yeah.
I'm pretty involved in networking. I do the South Florida Business Forum. I'm a member of the Florida Institute of CFOs, FICFO. So, when I got the award, CFOs for the larger organizations, reached out to congratulate me and kind of put me on their radar, I would say. And I believe that I've had opportunities, present themselves to me. Not solely because of the award, but I think, again, I've been on a radar as a result of that exposure. So from a personal standpoint, I think it's opened doors.
Yeah.
And again, I'm a CPA, right? I come from public accounting. It's very similar to starting your career in the Big Four, right? So if I can say, hey, I started in the Big Four space, automatically, that's kind of a pedigree as far as what type of CPA you are, what kind of training you received. Mm-hmm. And I think that this award it's not the end all be all, but I do think it differentiates yourself from peers and others in your space.
Yeah, no, I that really resonates with me. I mean, same thing. I'm a networker. I like to really get out there and speak to a lot of people, but that recognition or whatnot of them, just having you on a different aspect of the radar,
right.
Something that I definitely experienced as well. And, definitely led to a lot of new business and whatnot, new opportunities. So I could definitely see that in a big way. And, obviously you guys are going to experience that as you continue to go down this path, and just really excited to see that. But sticking with you, Mike, for a second, if you had to choose one thing, that you feel was kind of that moment that made you deserving for this award, what would that be in your career?
Yeah, I think, it's tough to pick one moment, but I think one thing that really put me on this path was, me getting promoted as CFO during my tenure at PECA. So a little background as to that. I joined that company in the midst of COVID. Prior to that, I had been in the SaaS space, IT space, and the live entertainment space, right? I worked for Logitech here in Boca Raton. And obviously live entertainment took a big hit, right? And the company was going through some changes, right? And I decided to look for a little bit more stable of an industry, and healthcare, seemed a little stable. People are going to need to go to the doctors.
Especially at that time.
Yeah, exactly, right, with COVID and all those things.
Yep.
So Pekka is an optometry business, and I landed there in March of 21 as the VP of Finance. And after about a year with the company, my CFO, John Martin, who's a great mentor of mine, and I'll always appreciate him for doing this, he told the board, he accepted an opportunity as a CEO for another local business. And on his way out, he told the board and our CEO that he felt like, rather than going externally, that they had the right guy in me, and that they should really consider promoting me. Our CEO, Jim McGran, another great mentor of mine, was fully supportive, and ultimately our private equity group, Nautic, was as well. And they gave me the opportunity to step into that CFO role. And as a result, shortly thereafter, we took the company to market, and we were able to lead that organization through a successful sale. We were acquired by VSP Optical, the largest vision insurer in the U.S. And as a result of all that experience and that exposure, right, and also just the trust that they put into me, my resume, I had always been involved in M&A activity, but to be able to say I was a CFO that led an organization through a successful exit, really, again, that stamp of pedigree, right? When they're looking at resumes or you're looking for different opportunities, to be able to say, not only have I done it, but I led an organization through the financial diligence process, I think really put me on a different pedestal or different pedigree, different lane in terms of my overall professional experience. And it's really opened up doors, in addition to the award of the 40 under 40. I think that moment, that promotion, it's really hard to get to that C level, right? And for an organization to give me that internally and bolster me internally was, something I'm always really appreciating. I think it's changed my career path.
Yeah, to follow up, go a little deeper on that. We're at NDM Hospitality. Our number one thing that we always talk about in culture is win from within. And how do you take individuals that have passion, hard work, and great at what they do, and give them the path to get to the next level, right? So hearing that is just music to my ears. I love hearing that from companies. How did that shape you as a leader? Experiencing that from the other side or whatnot. How did that impact you? What do you take from that to kind of bring into your leadership style?
Yeah, so something that I'll share with anybody that's ever worked with me or reports to me is, I really believe that I'm a culmination of all the things that I've experienced in my career that I've liked and have not liked, right? There's learnings in both.
Yeah.
The
best learnings are like when things are going right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or right, hey, I didn't like the way that person treated me or the bad experience. I want to make sure I show up differently. So from my vantage point, I'm very intentional with trying to understand the folks that are within my organization that report into me. What are you working towards? What are your goals? Not only in this year, but in the midterm, long term, what are you working towards? So that way I can start providing you work opportunities that help guide you in that direction. And you might get exposure to things that you thought you wanted that you didn't necessarily want, right? So I try to be very intentional in that regard to foster good understanding of what drives the people that report into me. Because when I was working my way up through the ranks, I always felt more motivated when I felt like my boss really understood who I was and what I was working towards.
That's awesome.
And I think that human connection and that, the intentionality there goes a long way. And it's something that I've, taken from that experience and really tried to put into any role that I'm in.
That's awesome. And Matt, I know you're going to have a question to follow up on that in a minute, but before we do that, I want to bring the question over to Alfonso. What was that one moment, if there was one, that this is getting me to where I want to be, or getting me eligible for this type of award?
It's a tough question because there's been a multitude of experiences that, like I mentioned earlier, have got me to this point. But I'd probably say the inflection point was being named the Chief Operating Officer of the Falcone Group. When your father, Art Falcone, who's a mentor of mine, a great teacher and a titan of the real estate industry, for him to entrust me to have that C-suite position, it meant a lot for me professionally, and then also personally from a confidence standpoint, to be able to try and take it to the next level in the sense of what I bring to our company and what I try to do from an industry and market standpoint on a daily basis. And so I really think that was a really critical moment for myself in terms of where I've been and where I want to go. We can continue to really build upon what we've already done and what your family's done over the past 4+ decades.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. And to be a part of that movement, it's something that, it's really humbling. And again, I think that was the key inflection point for me.
That's awesome. And, one thing I would say from somebody who, is a peer and watching you, and what you do with Falcone Group every day, I think speaking for my brother and my father as well, we're like blessed to have you as part of the team. I think we learn just as much from you as vice versa or whatnot, and it's just amazing collaboration. And one thing you mentioned that is interesting to me, you mentioned that, getting that position gave you a lot more confidence or whatnot. From my perspective, I always look at you as somebody with the utmost confidence since the minute I met you. Where does that come from? Where, and how do you kind of convey that?
I think it comes from my parents and their belief in myself and my 3 siblings. Just ever since growing up as kids, even if we weren't the most talented or necessarily the best position to be at the top of whatever we were competing in, it was always a true reaffirmation of you got this, try your best, do your best, no matter what you're doing, whether it's the smallest and most in the weeds minutia of an activity or endeavor, or if it's, going to take your SATs or play in a state championship sporting event or game. It was always do your best. And knowing going into an event or going into an activity that's the mindset, there's nothing that you're leaving on the table in terms of effort. And that in and of itself, I think, is something that I try to impart upon my kids, as I'm sure you gentlemen do as well, is that you won't have any regrets in terms of putting your best foot forward. And so I think that principle really allows and has instilled in me the belief that I should be as confident as anyone else in whatever room I'm in, no matter what background they come from, what they do for a living, or who they are, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, right? And so if everyone can be on that level set playing field of mindset and wanting to be positive and grow something and be a part of something special, I think that's something that I've tried to really embrace no matter what I do.
Let's hear from our sponsor, Rental Resorts. Today's traveler wants more than a hotel room. They want space, service, and experiences that feel effortless. Rental Resorts delivers all 3, combining the comfort of a private home with the amenities of a world-class resort. It's a model that transforms second homes and residences into thriving hospitality assets. For owners and investors, rental provides turnkey management, global marketing, and a guest experience that builds loyalty and drives profitability. For destinations, it means longer stays, more spending, and guests who return year after year. From family reunions to luxury getaways, rental makes living life on vacation a reality. And that vision, backed by proven operations and powerful brand partnerships, is reshaping hospitality worldwide. Rental Resorts, where lifestyle meets performance.
Yeah, and you said another thing that really hits me, and I think we all share this, and knowing you guys, we're all sports guys. You mentioned how teams have really shaped a lot of who you are. Just opening up to all of us, like how has sports and teams really, done similar things for you guys? Starting with Mike.
Yeah, from my vantage point, I think sports really gives a foundation. Like, I can't wait for my kids to get involved because you're faced with challenges, right? And you have to overcome them. You have to persevere. You have to tap into your highest level of effort, right? And ultimately your preparation will come to results on the field, right? There's no hiding once the game's on, right? And you're in the lines of the field. There's no shortcuts, right? So it's all about the effort that you put into it. And I think also from a team's perspective, right, you really learn about how to work with others, right, and collaborate and accomplish things. And you're playing a game as a child, right, soccer, football, what have you. You don't really understand that you're developing skills that I believe translate into the workforce. And I think also, kind of mold you into the type of workforce that employers want, right? They're gonna, everybody's gonna encounter challenges. In my opinion, it's how do you react to those challenges? How are you gonna fold, or are you gonna find a way to persevere, right? Are you gonna put the extra effort, put in the extra hours, or are you gonna say, hey, you know what, this goes beyond my 9 to 5, right? And listen, some folks are gonna be those 9 to 5 folks, and they're gonna be happy with the outcomes. But I think there's limitations that you set individually, right? And I think a lot of those limitations come from your ability to persevere when you're faced with challenges.
100%.
A great example of that, and this, I feel like when you watch young people, that's when you could really see just the honest, like, emotion, right? And how people perceive things at a young age. And talking about perseverance, I'm watching my son play golf, right? And it is the funniest thing in the world because he is just hitting shots and pissed off. It's not going where he wants it. But the cool thing is that I guess for whatever reason, naturally, he just knows I got to keep trying. I got to keep going back and hitting the ball again and again. And it's just cool to see that, at a young age. I can't even take credit for it. I wish I could, but it's just something that I feel like some people have it, some people don't, and so it's just one thing that, I know you're going to start, all you guys are going to start experiencing that with your kids and seeing how that all happens and whatnot. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think some folks have that innate desire to persevere, but to your point, right? I think I'll also you that positive reinforcement and just say, hey, it didn't work out this time, but you got to keep trying, get it back up, right? Yep. And I think through coaching and just exposure, right? And when they're children, they're sponges, they're soaking all that in. Yeah. And I think how we act as parents, right? That permeates, and that's the same thing in the business environment. How you act as leaders, right? How do you react in a challenging scenario? Are you instilling confidence in your the folks that report into your direct reports? And if you instill confidence and you feel like, hey, yes, we're facing a challenge, but we can put together a plan, we're going to be strategic on how we approach it, that permeates throughout the organization as it does through your family.
Yeah, big time. Did you want to comment on the team?
Yeah. I mean, throughout my whole life, I grew up playing pretty much every sport you can possibly think of, whether it was baseball, football, soccer, lacrosse, really anything. And with that, I spent the majority of my life, playing sports up until I went to college. I always wanted, as I was growing up, I always wanted to be a professional football player, which, now I look back at it, I'm happy I did not do that because I'm a little small and a little slow, and I would get my head beat in, a little bit more than I would like. So I'd rather make some money doing something else. But, with that, to your point, I think you really do learn teamwork is one of the main things. Going through diversity as well is one of the major things that really has helped me throughout my career, and it's gotten me ready, just for the workplace in general. Because when you have different scenarios and different diversity coming up, you know how to handle it a lot better instead of someone that's really never been able to or never been put in any of those situations. And then on top of that, just the overall teamwork of everything. When you're able to work together as a team and really have everyone playing their role and really focusing on one common goal, then that's really where you're able to see success. And we see the same thing in our business as well. So those are the two main things that's really helped me throughout my life in sports. But I want to turn over to you as well. I know this guy. He's one thing for our viewers is Alfonso is a very humble guy. I do want to have Alfonso go a little bit into his kind of like where he started from high school, getting into college, sports that you've played, so on and so forth. Because this guy has a very, very impressive upbringing and whatever else. So I'll turn it over to you if you want to hit on this.
Thanks for that, Matt.
Yeah.
No, I mean, sports were really critical to myself and my siblings growing up. Just, I think from a time management standpoint, and also from a team collaborative, set of activities standpoint, you can't really beat sports and athletics. I mean, there are obviously a lot of other hobbies and things that, can comprise a child's upbringing, but for us, it was sports. And I think we were really fortunate growing up to be able to be in a position to play with some really great peers and friends across the city of Pittsburgh in different sports. Myself, it was football at the age of 6 I started, and then basketball in middle school, lacrosse in middle school, and continued to play all three of those sports throughout high school and then into college, both basketball and lacrosse. And the lessons you learn, the mistakes you make, just being able to become stronger as a result of those things, I think really helped prepare me both academically in the classroom,
For sure.
personally, and then professionally up into this day and going forward as well. Because by no stretch of the imagination, am I perfect or any of us perfect? We all make mistakes and we all have challenges and limitations, but it's how you position yourself and rely on your close support systems and your teammates, both literally and metaphorically speaking, depending on the situation, that will allow you to go forward. And so in my opinion, again, this doesn't necessarily ring true for everybody, but for myself, it was always sports as that kind of anchor in my life by which to go back to something Nick and I, we were talking about earlier about the confidence,
Yep.
I think is really transferable across the spectrum of the different facets of my life. And so I'm really blessed to have been able to be physically healthy, to compete at a high level in sports during my upbringing.
That's good. Tell us, like I said, he's a very humble guy, so I'm trying to get it out of him. Tell our viewers a little bit on like where you went to school, kind of what you did after school, and then, before getting on board with Falcone Group.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, going back to high school, playing multiple varsity sports, it was always my dream to play college basketball coming out of high school. I was unfortunate to experience a really bad ankle tear my junior year of high school, which led to a lot of the Division I colleges that I was aspiring to go to stop recruiting me for basketball. And so going into my senior year, it became a decision of whether or not to potentially play Division III basketball at NYU, New York University, or apply to Yale University early application, which I was really lucky and fortunate to be accepted into. So I went to Yale, walked onto the lacrosse team as a freshman, as the basketball coach, Coach Jones, who's still the coach. We're very close to this day. Wasn't taking walk-ons my freshman year, and I think handling the workload of school and making new friends up in Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut, and I think it was enough of a sense of responsibility my freshman year to really just embrace those things.
Yeah.
And so fast forward throughout college, where sports was a major component of it, academics obviously, but also working within the community and tutoring and being a volunteer, whether it's Big Brothers Big Sisters, overseeing all 32 Division I sports teams at Yale, their respective social and community outreach programs. It was a really, really special 4 years for myself, and I was really lucky to play lacrosse alongside my brother as well. My freshman year, he was a senior when I was a freshman. He was a goalie on the team, and he's my hero or mentor.
That's awesome.
And so we were really, really fortunate to be able to share that year together, and he helped me kind of transition into my college years that way with he and all of his friends. But then fast forward to my senior year, at Yale, you only have one captain per sports team, and I unfortunately wasn't elected captain. And instead of being really upset about it, although it was something I had really hoped to have been selected for, instead, my close friend Pat Coleman deservedly received that recognition and was a phenomenal captain. I decided to take that summer going into my senior year to train all summer to play basketball and try on for the basketball team that coming fall. And my lacrosse coach blessed that endeavor. And the basketball coach, Coach Jones, said, "Sure, you can try out. I think you're pretty much crazy, but go for it."
And this is your senior year.
This is going into my senior year. So that fall, I arrived on campus, and after training all summer, every day for almost 4 months, had a 6 a.m. workout with Coach Jones, one-on-one, and ended up making the team. And so that senior year, I played both sports. And, again, fast forward after college, was really lucky to do a lot of different things. I went over to England at University of Oxford to get my master's in social policy, which was a continuation of a lot of the things I had done in New Haven, Connecticut, where I had focused on my senior thesis studying food deserts in New Haven, Connecticut, and the really terrible health outcomes that it has on children, especially disadvantaged youth within the community. And so I took that to my studies over at Oxford, where I focused on health, education, and affordable housing. Came back to the United States, did Teach for America, teaching 5th grade social studies and history in Brownsville, Brooklyn through the Teach for America core program. And that experience, along with going to work for a political action committee, eventually into law school up at Harvard and Cambridge, all of those things led me to what was eventually probably the most profound experience in my life, which was serving as the Deputy Chief of Staff at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development during the previous Trump administration under Dr. Ben Carson, where I oversaw all housing policy for the entire country, which is really special for me because my background in real estate, background in policy, law, having worked with and taught children who lived in public housing or were currently or formerly homeless, it was a true kind of culmination of all these different perspectives I had obtained over the decade and a half plus leading up into that point. So being able to serve in the public space as a government official was was really incredible, and I'll forever cherish those years. And I think it was a great segue into being a practitioner now as a real estate developer and investor with the Falcone Group, because a third of what I do now is a combination of politics, government, law, policy. The other third is, being able to engage and interface in the business space and negotiate things of that nature. And the other third is just being or trying to be a good human being. Because at the end of the day, when you're in business, when you're in policy, politics, law, government, having a human touch and being able to relate to people and empathize, regardless of their background, to allude back to something I was mentioning earlier, it's really critical.
Yeah.
And again, all those experiences, I think, allowed me to have that journey that I've had thus far. I'm really appreciative of that.
I appreciate the feedback on that, and I think it's a good segue, because one thing that the 40 Under 40 award really stands for is charity, and what you do within the community and how you make an impact within the community. So I'll start with you, House. What does charity mean to you? What charities are you involved in, and kind of what's your why on why you really want to get into those things?
Yeah, I mean, from my vantage point, I have a little bit of a unique background. You guys know my story, and I won't necessarily go into a ton of details here, but it's different than the average person, right? And I've been fortunate enough to be provided opportunities because other folks were gracious enough and were willing to extend a hand and help me along the way. And as I matured and as I started my career, I really realized that, to the point that you've made, right, that an individual success takes a village. It's not you can't make it individually, right? You're going to have support, whether it be coaches or mentors or parents, teachers along the way. So from my vantage point, it became really important to me to give back, right? So here in South Florida, I've been involved in raising funds for junior achievement in prior roles. I currently sit on the board of professional advocacy for the Department of Finance at Florida State's College of Business. And my primary role on that board is engaging with students and providing mentorship. And I've been able to forge great relationships with aspiring, students that are really eager, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for their careers, but might not necessarily know what they want to get into. And just having open conversations and open dialogue and helping, young people kind of work through their evaluation on, what is the next step for me? Is it continuing to work on my education? Do I want to go in this area of finance versus another? So that I really enjoy. And then I'm also, very active in North Broward's alumni mentorship program. I was one of the first individuals to participate in that program, and I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to participate every year thereafter. And I maintain relationships with many of the kids that I've mentored through that program. Now, even beyond North Broward and into their collegiate careers, and some of them into their professional careers. So from my vantage point, it's been, really rewarding to be able to start giving back. And in terms, you didn't ask this question, but that was one of the main reasons for me nominating you, right? Obviously, we have large networks professionally and personally, but I've always really enjoyed your professional success, right? You guys have accomplished a lot professionally, but one thing that's always really stood out to me, Matt, was your involvement in giving back to community, right? And your position in Jacob's Shoes, and you've always invited me to those, those fundraisers, and I've been fortunate enough to win some cool things at those fundraisers. But also, I believe you do like Special Olympics. You're involved with the Special Olympics and other organizations here in South Florida, as is your family, right? So when I went through, my mind and thinking about who really embodies that 40 under 40, right? The professional success is a lot of it, right? But I think your social responsibility and giving back, the human nature of things, right? We wouldn't be where we're at if it weren't for people giving back to us. So I really enjoyed that, and I could see that you do as well. So that was why.
No, and I appreciate that. Yeah, that's definitely a big thing for us, is to give back to the community. In order to work with kids and, people that really don't have a lot. And, we're able to teach them things. We're able to, once again, give back and, put them into positions, of success.